after a couple of weeks off, and it's good to be back again. And this time we can report there's light at the end of the tunnel and maybe optimism for the return of sports. Boise State going to be cranking back up before too long. And last week, Dave, I was on furlough, so I didn't get a chance to really pay too much attention to it. Well, I was from afar, I'm not going to lie, but
sure.
I'm going to be immersed in it like normally. So, yeah, it's interesting, though. But you guys had the chance to catch up with Harsin last week.
Yeah, we talked to Harsin, and it was a little enlightening just kind of knowing what a coach's thought process is during this whole thing. Last time we really talked to him was right when everything hit. So all we talked about before was, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And then now it's been about how have you handled it, but also now what are you doing to get out of it?
Right.
And it was really interesting. He kind of said he has like 30 plans that he's kind of put together, and he said we might use one of them, which that's good. And that's probably all he can do right now, other than having meetings and trying to keep things normal.
Yeah.
But I think, it does seem like things are happening very quickly. A lot of schools are saying athletes are going to come back on June 8th, June 15th, right around there. Mm-hmm. In Boise State, they're allowed to by the NCAA starting around June 1st. I think we'll probably figure out, we have to figure out very soon just how that'll work for them. Yeah. And like Harsin said, it'll be in phases, but that's at least, they'll be pretty close to normal. I know they didn't get spring, but what they'll be able to do for the most part is pretty similar to what they'd be able to do in a normal summer program.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny how much has changed since the last time we caught up with Bryan Harsin. I mean, if you remember,
oh my God,
that's when the speculation was April 15th, everything would basically kind of be back to normal, right. And maybe they'd even be practicing spring ball by that time.
Yeah.
But the timeline on that was just blown to smithereens.
Yep.
And, now it's looking like June 1st is when they might be able to get some guys back in the building. It seems like everything with COVID-19, every approach is going to be controversial, right or wrong, whatever. But one thing that did stand out to me was the fact that, you almost get the feeling that these players are safer practicing together, lifting together at Boise State, because that'll be a very controlled environment. I mean, let's face it, Dave, these guys are college football players. They've been working for this their whole lives. To tell them not to work out really isn't an option. And we've seen them get a lot of guys get creative, but you can only sustain that for so long.
Yep.
And they're going to find ways to work out. And if that's the case, why not make sure they're all safe under one roof and, lifting in clean, confined areas that are very controllable by people who have their best interest at heart, not some, random gym in California or something like that where, it probably won't be as safe as Boise State's football facility.
Right. And I think that part of what goes into with that, and Harsin kind of brought it up a little bit, which I thought was good, was he also was thinking about other people that might be coming into the building, staff members, even us, media guys, people like that are be coming in. How are they safe? How are they keeping the players safe with that? And I think that from the player standpoint, they're all going to be together for the most part, right? They'll live together, they'll lift together, all that stuff. That's good. The only thing that I think would be a little bit of a concern, and it was something I didn't get a chance to ask Bryan Harsin about, was you can't control them all the time.
Right.
They're still 20 years old.
Yep.
And we look at the stats, most people that are that age might get it, and it might not harm them as much as someone that's, 60.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder if, and we're talking about 100 of these kids, right?
Right.
And coaches always talk about the challenge of trying to, corral and understand them.
Yeah.
What happens if 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them say, hey, there's a party at this house and I haven't been to one in a long time, and they go? You just don't know. And I think that's part of his thought process even. We talked about these contingency plans, that stuff. He's been asking those questions, he said, and that's good. It's prudent. And I think that is very important at this time.
Yeah. One thing about that, Dave, and you're totally right. And you can talk about, it's a team buy-in and everybody's going to do this. But you're dealing with 18 to 23-ish-year-old kids, and it will be impossible to get all 105 on the same
Right.
page off of the field, away from football. Like, there's a better chance of it coming together, while they're out practicing on the blue than away
Sure.
from it. And in all honesty, I don't even fault them. I mean, come on now.
No.
We were in college. We know what it's like. And to ask them to avoid all that stuff is going to be really, really hard. And it'll be taxing mentally, too, because those kids, I mean, with how much work they put in, they do need a break.
Yeah.
But I just think the encouraging thing, though, is at least this is something. I mean, like, you
Yeah.
can't have football season without fall practice. You can't have fall practice without some type of summer workout. So, I mean, like, at least it seems like they're on a taking some stepping stones towards getting back to what we need this fall.
With I agree, and also too, like, I know the Pac-12 coaches had a teleconference recently, all of them, and they talked about how a lot of them seem to agree that you needed about a 6-week runway before the season.
Mhm.
Well, if we're talking June 1st,
It's
that's longer than that.
yeah,
June 15th.
that's twice as long.
Yeah, June 15th, same thing, or even if it's July 1st. And, it won't be the same. And I'm genuinely interested to see how that's going to affect teams. Like, if conditioning is going to be an issue or injuries or whatever. But it does seem like, at least with these plans, it's giving them a little more time than whatever is the minimum is, which should help them. And if this thing goes according to plan, that can only be beneficial.
Yeah. The interesting thing moving forward is going to be the debate of whether you can have student athletes on campus and not the rest of the student body.
Mm-hmm.
They last week came out with a statement saying that they intend to start classes this fall on time, and there are going to be some added options to just kind of condense that conversation. But it sounds like if you want to do some more online stuff, that'll be an option. They're not going to go back to school in a face-to-face manner after Thanksgiving break next year, which, if you think about it, everybody goes home and everybody comes back. That's probably a pretty wise move if you just keep everybody at home for a little while longer until the new semester begins. And really, it buys everybody a month and a half to, for a vaccine maybe to be discovered or to kick in around the country or whatever it is. But I don't know. That's an interesting debate, Dave. I know it really doesn't matter, but I am curious your thought on that. Like, can you have sports without students?
Yeah, and I of course, that's the biggest question out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think so. If what we're talking about is, the likelihood, in my opinion, that there won't be fans, at best, it's going to be reduced.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no fans, that right there is mitigating some risk.
Yeah.
With the students on campus, it's very important, but I think for the athletes is, if they to do a majority of their classes online or whatever at their houses or wherever,
Mm-hmm.
and still go to the facility to do the things they need to do, and then they leave, you can do it that way.
Yeah, I think there obviously should be an option. Like, if you're just not comfortable with it, you should still have your scholarship honored. And if you whatever, if you're a student athlete and you don't want to play.
And Harsin did address that a little bit, saying that he knows, because he was on KTIK. They talked to Dan Hawkins, and Dan Hawkins said he was pretty sure that there will be some guys not comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was brought up to Harsin, and Harsin agreed. Harsin said that there will be those guys.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to be in the him saying it in a negative manner. He was basically just saying, yeah, that's probably the truth.
Mm-hmm.
See, again, I think that's a good point on your part, and I would hope that if players don't necessarily feel comfortable with it, you would still honor the scholarships if they want to keep going to class, keep going to school.
Yeah, I mean, I might be narrow-minded in the sense that I love sports. I want to see sports. I don't want to see them at a cost that's way too reckless or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing is, by having these men and women on campus, Boise State's allowed to feed them, allowed to house them, allowed to take care of them in ways that they wouldn't be able to be taken care of if they weren't on campus. So, in a lot of ways, yes, I know you might be subjecting student athletes to harm, which you can't do. I mean, like, you can't do that at an egregious level, clearly. But I'm willing to bet a lot of them out there, a huge portion of them, would want to be, on campus and having that assistance and being taken care of like they kind of normally are.
And that's the thing too is, and I mentioned it a little bit at first, I think when the furloughs came up,
Mm-hmm.
about how much money, comes to the athletic department from student fees, and other schools are way higher than Boise State. So I think that this is a little bit less of a concern there, but the student body in general, would you want to pay to go to university if you only could do it online, if you were that age?
Great, Dave. This is a great point. I actually talked with a Boise State student, kind of a family friend who's entering college next year, and this was prior to Boise State saying they plan to do in-face, or they intend to do in-face classes next year. But prior to that email, he said, he's like, why would I go to school or pay to go to school and not get the full college experience and only take online classes? I'm going to delay my enrollment a year. So
Yeah.
that is a perfectly valid question. I mean, like, man, I went back. I stayed an extra semester at school. I mean, I could have graduated on time. I grabbed an extra emphasis on my my degree, but Dave, I went back for the college experience.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Football season in college for me in Pullman, which was well worth the extra semester of tuition. But that's what you get out of college too.
Yeah. What was your outside emphasis?
So I majored in front of the camera in broadcast news, and then behind the camera in broadcast production.
Oh, good for you.
And then I added, I finished off my minor in business, which really comes into handy.
My outside emphasis was American history.
Of course it is, Dave.
True story.
I 1000% believe you.
It was fun. But yeah, that one only gets put to use when I do trivia. So at least, if you count the gift cards and stuff like that.
These days, then you do work.
Yeah. It's been surprisingly busy with writing, shockingly.
I'm just kidding, Mr. Athletic, if you're listening.
Yeah, Jeff Athletic, if you're listening.
When it comes to the Boise State football team, though, there are some roster adjustments, if you will. One guy we knew was going to be leaving. We all were pretty sure we knew where he was going to be going, but he kind of actually confirmed it last week, and that's DeAndre Pierce. He is going to go down and play for his dad at Arizona State. His dad's an assistant coach down there. It's a well-documented story that everybody knows right now. But a kid that you definitely hope a new setting creates some new energy around him, just a new luck around him, because he didn't have a whole lot of it over the last couple of years at Boise State.
And what's funny too is, I do applaud Boise State fans, because I know a lot of times when a guy transfers, especially a guy who's important to your team, that there's a little bit of anger.
Yep.
And almost across the board, I've seen people's reactions, back when he said he was leaving to now, been really positive, just because I think they understand.
Yeah, you have those few. It's never going to be 100, obviously.
Never, no.
Right.
No.
It has been an encouraging sight, because almost everybody, I would say 90%, are behind this kid and chasing his dream and just trying to find, again, a little more luck. I mean, the kid was good. He was great his first couple of years at Boise State when he could stay healthy, but the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And so, this might be the change of scenery that he needs.
Because we'll talk to him, right?
Yeah.
And
it's one of those things where you kind of wait for something to happen, and then the moment you go on furlough, he sends me a text, and I you have to,
without fail. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I was waiting for 2 or 3 weeks. And, I don't want to press the kid. I want him to make his decision and make his announcement whenever he wants to. And I think everybody thinks it was a layup for Arizona State. But I got it on pretty good account that it wasn't just, an obvious decision for him. And he put a lot of thought into it before eventually settling on Arizona State.
I think, the promotion of his dad to co-DC doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
And
yeah, but Will did catch up with him and chatted with him, and he's a good kid. You just he's got some other stuff going on in his life right now too. That a little bit bigger than football, but he's figuring it all out. So
yeah. It's I think not a lot of people are too upset, and also I mean I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, but also that position, even though they lose both the guys started beginning of the season, you probably should feel pretty good about that position despite that, considering the depth they have. So I think that probably helps people a little bit. Like, if it was, I'm trying to think of a position where if some guy left, I don't know, John Bates, if he left, then they'd have nobody who's had a catch. So
yeah,
but
they're well equipped to fill the gap without DeAndre. I mean, not saying that he wasn't a great player, but they've been doing it for 2 years now, finding ways to fill the void. So
it'll be pretty crazy too. The two guys that I think will start. You think about DeAndre's size.
Yeah.
Both of those guys tower over him. If you're going with JL Skinner and Tyreek Jones.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to be the Boise State football player, and it's going to happen, that switches to the number 0 this year?
Oh.
I literally have this on no account, but I saw, was it Tyreek LaBeouf? He retweeted somebody. Was it him? I can't remember. But retweeted somebody that's switching to the number 0. So that can be my guess. He seemed all about it. I could be way off on this one.
Well,
but now college football players, a rule change this year. They can wear the number 0.
Defensive backs love the single digits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Tyreek LaBeouf, just the way he's built, he's a pretty skinny guy. So that 0 would actually make him look even slimmer.
Exactly. Dave, is 0 a number?
Is black a color, or is it the absence of color?
The absence of color. Right?
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a tweet about that the other day. That was kind of an off the cuff thing. But getting back to transfers, man, kind of like one of the more shocking grad transfers in our time of covering the Boise State football team. I mean, usually when Boise State brings in a guy, you can kind of really make good sense of it. I mean, Kelsey Young, the running back from Stanford, Boise State needed depth at running back. It just seems like every time they make a move like that, you kind of understand. I mean, Jalen Henderson wasn't a grad transfer, but he was a transfer quarterback that just made sense because they needed depth at quarterback. Now Boise State lands a grad transfer at quarterback that really makes that room even more crowded than it was before. And you like to Boise State has 2 guys that they really think they could start college football games, in Chase Cord and obviously Hank Bachmeier. Now they have a third probably.
Yeah. With Sears, it was a surprising move at first. And of course, this is one of those things that when I saw that he wasn't going to San Diego State, I said out loud that, I wonder if Boise State might go after him. But I never it was never on record.
Yeah.
So of course, that's what always happens. But
well, now it's on record, Dave.
Yeah. We're recording this on May 1st. But it makes sense, just in terms of he has some connection to Boise State a little bit, in that 2 of his high school teammates are on the team right now, in Riley Wimpy and Dante Harrington. He's a guy from Southern California. They know him really well. But I think people wonder if it, for him, that he could have started elsewhere. But you think about, Oregon State, Northwestern, North Carolina State.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to win as much there as you would at Boise State? No. And I think that was important to him. And that's what it sounds like from talking to people, that was a key factor for him, and that he thought that he still had an opportunity to compete for the starting job. And, I was curious for some, and some people wondered why even Boise State would make that move, but it would be disingenuous to be like, yeah, we should get a grad transfer, but not a very good one. Is that what you want? No, you want to get the best one you can find.
Well, I mean, we want the 2-star third stringer. We don't need the former 4-star that could potentially start for us.
Right, exactly right.
I mean, looking at it that way, Dave, that's pretty good perspective that you phrase it that way, or frame it that way, because that just seems silly. Like, why not take a more talented guy? Right. I almost don't question Boise State's angle, though. I kind of question his angle, because you have Hank Bachmeier, who I think we all saw last year is the clear-cut front runner. And I'm not talking about just how Hank started the season. I'm talking about how he ended it. No, he wasn't good against UW, but he got the start against UW, which kind of shows how much faith the coaches have in him. He replaced the guy in Jalen Henderson that was red hot at the time. So clearly the coaches love him. Clearly the coaches like Chase Cord. You wonder, if there's any question marks hanging out over him at this moment. I have no clue. I talked with him during the spring. He seems very committed to coming back and being a part of this competition. And he too, kind of like DeAndre, without this change of scenery, is just hoping for some luck where he can actually stay healthy. It's crazy what Chase went through last year, undocumented, because injuries. None of that information is revealed to us, but he's playing with a broken knuckle at one point in time. I mean, it just seems like every time he gets healthy, something happens to him to de-escalate his status on the depth chart or his playing availability. So I get why Boise State brought in Jack Sears from USC, but I don't, outside of winning, like you said, Dave, or the chance to win. It just seems like a pretty big uphill climb for him to get significant snaps right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the initial reaction that people got was they were like, "Oh, this guy was a 4-star recruit. This guy played at USC. He did well in his one start."
Yeah.
There were some people I think that were automatically thinking like, "He's coming in to take the starting job." It's like he's played one game in 3 years.
Yeah.
He didn't even play football last fall.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I wrote it in my story. I was like, if he can come in and beat out Bachmeier and Cord, I don't necessarily think that's a knock on those two. That's saying that he has extraordinary ability. And
100%.
And so, I mean, it's so far from a foregone conclusion he's going to come in and start. And then people wonder, what's he going to do about Hank's confidence?
Mm-hmm.
People wondered the same thing last fall. Are they always going to worry about that? Don't worry about it. Hank's a big boy.
Yeah.
People were concerned about last year, like, they're starting Jalen and he's healthy. Is he going to leave? Guess what? There was Hank in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And he, we all talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was confident and just, he handled it the right way, in my opinion, about, how things went last year. So if that didn't cause him to leave, this isn't going to.
Yeah. I will say, if they all do stay this year, next year would be super interesting because he's only a sophomore. Jack Sears has 2 years of eligibility left, as does Chase Cord probably also has 3 years. Right, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just there's not a lot of gap right there.
There's not.
And that's classification. So even age, they're all pretty similar in age because Hank's older for his grade. So that's an interesting dilemma. And I know I can't remember if Chase said he has graduated or is about to graduate because he's going into what would be his. I mean, like school-wise, this is his senior year, but because of injuries, technically he'll only be a redshirt sophomore this coming fall.
He'd be redshirt junior, right?
Junior?
Yep.
Redshirt junior this coming fall.
Then he'll probably get a 6th year at the end.
Right. So 2 years of eligibility or 3 potentially for Chase.
He has 2 for sure, and then he would probably get a 3rd at the end.
I mean, like almost certain though. So I mean, you can kind of view him as a redshirt sophomore. I don't know.
Same thing. I mean, it's almost the same thing as Ryan Finley.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And so
if all those guys stay though, like one of them's got to go next year when they have the grad transfer status and can freely
I agree with you.
Go wherever you want. And I
agree with you
for that either. I mean, if you can't get on the field at that point in time and you've achieved your whatever you need to do academically, then you should be allowed. I definitely believe in that. If you graduate college, you should be allowed to put yourself in a better situation athletically if you choose to do so.
I agree with that. And I ran into Chase on campus back in like February, and maybe like January.
One on campus. You talked to them for 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, exclusive, everything. He told me they were going to get Jack Sears, but I forgot to report it. No.
Yeah.
But he said, I don't think I don't think he has graduated or was going to this spring. Especially, I
Yeah,
saw
I think
he
it is
wasn't on the
next year.
list, and
Yeah.
so yeah. So if I had to guess, yeah, he'll be here in the fall, and whatever happens. If he doesn't, quite get the amount of playing time he wants, I would imagine he would graduate probably in the winter, and then be able to go somewhere and potentially play 2 years, kind of
Mhm.
like Jack Sears.
Yeah. 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 Good. Really good point. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Chase would be a guy that as a grad transfer would be extra coveted because he has 2 years of eligibility versus just one at that point in
Mm-hmm.
his career. But interesting, no question. In that room, I mean, everybody talks, says, hey, let's get as much competition in that room as we possibly can. You look at the payoff for the wide receivers. I mean, it's been a couple years running now where we've been asking ourselves how can they get all these wide receivers involved. They have so much talent. There simply isn't enough enough balls to go around. It was what 3-4 years ago where Cedric Wilson is like the only guy on the team that can really make plays at that position. And
Mm-hmm.
not to take anything away from Sean Modster. He did have a good senior year, and so did AJ Richardson. But and those guys are hanging on in the NFL. So maybe I should really kind of walk my comments back here. But they don't offer the same explosiveness as when Khalil Shakir is your second option to John Hightower and
Oh yeah,
C.T. Thomas and those guys.
you're talking about 17.
Yes. Yeah.
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 No,
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, there was a clear number one.
Yeah, clear number one. Yeah,
You
and
know.
that was a year with a rotating quarterback. They had a wide receiver go for over 1,500 yards. I mean, Cedric
Mm-hmm.
Wilson, that season was something else, considering
Yeah.
what was going on at quarterback. And one of the
Was
quarterbacks wasn't considered like an amazing throwing quarterback. But
right.
you saw what competition did for the wide receiver room. Maybe it's going to do the same for the quarterback room now because, unlike other positions, only one quarterback gets to take snaps on game day at one given time. You can run multiple receivers out there, multiple running backs out there, heck, an extra lineman, extra tight ends. But really, you're only going to get one quarterback that's going to play consistently throughout the fall, or so or probably you hope so.
One of the things that really intrigues me though about Sears is like he ran for like 1,200 yards his senior year. And so you wonder, like, okay, I know they like having that other guy who's maybe a little more mobile to get in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a similar skill set to Chase Cord? Because if it is, and they're the same year, I don't know. Do you just roll with one of those guys? Like, oh no, there's two mobile guys we'll use. It's interesting. Remains to be seen. But
yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, kind of going down a different path here. Definitely interested to see Hank's development, and we got robbed of that this spring. We didn't really get a chance to see much spring ball. Literally one practice, and it was on the night that Boise State was playing in the semifinals of the Mountain West, Mountain West Conference men's basketball tournament. And so, and it was like state that night too, or something.
Yep. I think you're right.
By the way, sports gods, I apologize. I was overwhelmed that week with all that we had to do and cover, and going to 15 to 20 state games in a 3-day window, plus football practice, plus covering basketball, and I was a little gassed.
Be careful what you ask for, Tust.
My bad. Okay, like I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll take that any day right now. Any day right now.
And it's funny too about the Hank thing is like, I when you write little season preview things, you have to write them in advance. Like I do one for a magazine. I ran that. I finished that in like April.
Okay.
I have one for The Athletic coming up, and all of them were basically like, yeah, Bachmeier will probably be pretty good. He's for sure the starter, and I still believe that, but that has changed a little bit lately. But I know when we got him at that one practice, he was really good about his own development and his own flaws and where he wants to get better. So that was something I was definitely interested in, was going to track throughout the spring, and got to write about it one time. I at least got that.
Well, Dave, I've been playing a lot of NCAA football lately.
So have I.
And one thing that I have found out, if you hold on to the ball a little bit longer, there's a chance, you get a wide receiver behind somebody in that secondary and you bomb it over the top. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of Hank Bachmeier style. So there's some trade off there that if you take a hit, you can pad your stats and eventually win the Heisman as the quarterback of the Houston Cougars. That's all,
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you understand that
I mean,
and you always get
I'll lead the nation in sacks if I can lead the nation in passing yards and touchdowns.
you have the visual cues. Usually, if there's like the defensive back, you can see him point off to someone. As soon as they do that, you're like, that guy is toast because he's calling for someone that's not there. That's always my thing when I throw deep.
Okay.
I went 36-3.
Oh.
At South Florida.
Okay.
And the job at my alma mater opened up.
You take it? You passed.
Took it.
You passed on it. Nah, I'm good. I
took it.
Even on a video game, that's just too much turnaround.
I stayed at USF for 3 years. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I'm the second season as the OC at Houston. No clue why I picked Houston. I just did it. I'm playing NCAA 13, by the way. I have 14. I can't find it anywhere, so I'm playing NCAA 13. And they had a decent quarterback, decent running back. Not a ton around that, but I can build from there.
I'm playing 12, and that's why I partially picked South Florida. They had BJ Daniels.
Oh, and you can run a little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was thinking about it while I was playing the other day, though, because obviously I know everything now about there is no about football and offenses because I'm the offensive coordinator, and we went 13-1 last year, and now we're ranked 4th in the country, so I know everything there is about offenses and football. I wonder what actual football players get more annoyed by: the fantasy crowd that thinks they know everything about football, or the gaming crowd that's like, no man, I diagnosed that cover 2 to perfection on this video game. I could totally throw darts in any situation in real life. Just give me the chance.
There's the guy in the flat, man. Come on.
Hit him. Come on.
When we're not dropping back in cover 4, and you got the RB out in the flat.
Yeah, I mean, did you see how I jarred the control so I could, fake the snap, and then I see the blitzing linebacker. I got him to tip his cap. I'm throwing that slant right behind him.
Send him in motion. Send him in motion. The corner didn't follow him like during his zone, man.
And there's a glitch. I can't remember. I think it was one of the earlier ones. I'm gonna go 10 or 11, where every time you lined up in goal line, the opposing, regardless of where it was at on the field, the opposing
they were dropping.
Would straight put their goal line defense on the field. And so what I would do is I would go in and I would take out in my goal line package, I would take out all my tight ends and sub in my fastest wide receivers.
And audible out of it.
Yeah, so we'd be in a goal line package, and I would just have my receivers, run fly routes, and every one of them was covered by like a linebacker or a safety. So I would, I'd just throw bombs all day over the defense.
You're what they would call a cheeser. When I first started playing it online on the PS2, that was always the term used by guys, like when someone would like use a glitch.
Yeah.
Like I lost to a team once where the dude put in it was one of the old Miami teams, and he would almost constantly run fake punts, but he'd have the punter be like Roscoe Parrish.
Okay.
And so he'd take the snap and go on over end, even if you prepared for it. Then there'd be a pass. He was just good enough a passer. He would just float it up, and the receivers are so good they'd catch it. It was
so funny.
The most annoying thing I've ever done.
Your offense is just straight fake punts the whole
time.
Yeah. Dave, have you found yourself watching anything during this time that you normally would not give the light of day to? For me last week, I was watching some Madden tournament that was on ESPN.
Yeah.
And who was it for the Ravens? It was Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, the wide receiver. He's actually pretty good at Madden. He was playing Snoop Dogg in the final. But it goes back to one of those things. I haven't played Madden in a while, in all honesty. I was a big NCAA fan. But Snoop Dogg didn't pass.
Oh.
And whenever he did, it would be like a 18-step drop, throw across the field off your back shoulder.
Yeah. It's funny. Some dude just won like one of the big tournaments with the Redskins, and he didn't pass one time.
See?
That there was some sort of, I don't know if it's a glitch or what.
Cheesers.
Yeah, he was a cheeser. There was something he was exploiting where it was just like it worked every time.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem fun to me.
It doesn't. No. It doesn't. Yeah.
I mean, like I've played Dynasties with Air Force, so I would run a lot.
Yeah.
But I would mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
in my recruiting battles with Houston, by the way, this is really what people want to hear on this podcast. But,
all we can do right now is talk about hypothetical sports. Literally, that's all there is. So,
I don't know why, but Boise State keeps coming down and taking my recruits away, and they're getting like 4- and 5-star guys out of Houston, Texas, and I can't hold on to them. They keep beating me.
So when I played it, I played NCAA 12, right? So it's the rosters from the fall of 11.
Yeah.
First year I played at Boise State won the national championship.
Okay. And you weren't them.
I was not them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, it sounds so lame. This sounds so lame. But when I've tried to play as Boise State, I honestly, I'm like, I sometimes can't see my receivers because they're blue on blue.
It's not even a joke. Like, it's hard on the video game.
It's hard. It's like, and I know that this feeds into what people say about real life, but it's the game, it's hard.
I kind of agree with you. Even something like, I don't know. Playing old gaming systems now, because we kind of have to, you realize like what once was like, oh my God, they look like real humans out there. And now you look at them and you're like, gosh, I can barely even play this like or
like,
whatever it's called.
After guy scores a touchdown, he just goes, like, yeah. He seems excited.
He seems excited.
So you talk about things that we watched, because I've watched like old games and stuff like that, and randomly, I think I'm gonna have a story running next week on a Boise State player that played in like the late 70s, and like finding clips of that is hilarious because the coach's film is like the old like 8mm.
Yeah.
It looks like it might as well have been shot in 1940 is what it looks like. But I've been watching some of the just old games and highlights and stuff like that. That's what I've been doing, like finding just random stuff. Like oh, I heard that BYU used to throw it more than anybody before anybody else did. Mm-hmm. What did that look like? And I would go and watch it. Air Force in like 1985 when they were really, really good. Stuff like that.
Okay, so really kind of like off the cuff, kind of just like finding something and going with it.
Yep.
It's amazing what you can find on YouTube. I know our good friend and friend of the program, Mike Sharp, he's going back and watching like apparently every Jordan playoff game right now. And I was like, where are you finding those? And apparently they're all on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know I'm not tipping any secrets here, but markthebronco.com, if any Boise State fans want to watch any old games, go there. You can find anything pretty much.
Wow.
But, I mean, since 2003, I think he has everything. And there's some that go back further than that, but that's a great resource. But the story I'm writing actually didn't use that. I had to find old University of Idaho film when they played against Boise State. But what brings me to that, though, is The Last Dance. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
Because we have nothing to really turn our attention to besides that right now, it was great. I think that if we weren't so enamored by something new, something different, that everybody would have analyzed it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like the timeline of it to me is just like weird. None of it, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be that guy. But like, it would be like, oh yeah, we're talking about 98. All right, well, let's put up the timeline and just go ahead and flash right on back to 1991 for no explicable reason other than just to do it. Like, I didn't really kind of like that was weird. Like, I'm sorry, like if you're trying to establish like a story and a timeline, their timeline was just irrelevant. They would just go wherever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to.
It really got confusing toward the end when it was like 98 in the finals against the Jazz. Let's go back to 97 finals against the Jazz. And you're like,
wait,
what? Which one was this?
Yeah, totally.
And there has been criticism of that. I think that's valid, but I mean, like, doing it completely chronological
would have been different. Yeah,
it would have been different. And I get how they went with it, but maybe there would have been. It might have been better if, like, one episode was just focused on what led up to night. I don't know. I mean, there's so much stuff, but
I think they committed to the title, The Last Dance, and that was great when it came to advertising, and it was going to be about the final season of the Chicago Bulls. And so in every episode, they sprinkled in a little bit of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Found everything else to fill it with. But you're right. Like, I mean, why did they just call it the MJ documentary series?
Right.
And go a little bit more chronologically, I guess. Like, I don't think it would have really, like, anybody would really, at the end of the day, would have thought of it any differently than, if it was called The Last Dance and people thought they were watching stuff about The Last Dance. I mean, it was called The Last Dance, and, like, what, 8% of the documentary was actually about The Last Dance, probably.
Right. Yeah, no, it was. And I mean, the best part of it, of course, was, some of the
words.
Was what?
Swear words.
Was the swears.
The swears.
For sure.
Yeah.
Was it, I don't know why, but I was confused. Was it Larry Bird that said that, or was it?
Honestly, I was confused on that too, Dave.
Because they're hugging and you can't see who's saying it.
Yeah. Honestly, I was confused by that too, and I don't know, but I literally, like, that's the way that I'm probably going to greet every one of my friends when I actually do.
When I see you next, I will.
My name is one of y'all.
Yeah. YBFU.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, though, but it was good, Dave. I mean, like, it's old footage that, I mean, like, you said you were going through, trying to find old games for Boise State. I mean, they had an abundance of old Michael Jordan video that also had some, like, sound on it, and it all looked good and sounded good.
Yeah.
And was cool. And there's only probably so many people in the world that have the access and ability and time to go and dig all that up and put it in a presentable manner. And those people did that. So I do think it was cool. And it is neat to go back and just see the competitor that Michael Jordan was. I mean, I think he gets, the LeBron MJ comparison, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
But, like, I've never now thought more, like, you can't compare them. They're totally, like, they're two different, not just position, but, like, just two different people that have been unbelievable for the game. Like, Jordan kind of came off as a jerk. Like, he was a competitor, and a lot of his teammates thought he was a jerk because of how intense he was.
Yeah.
I don't think Jordan would thrive in the social media era the way that LeBron has. I mean, he's built himself into an empire, I mean, like, he's the one that knows how to captivate and manage and present himself in our current climate. I don't think MJ would thrive today like he did, yesteryear, where he could go with the security guards and just sit in a back room and not talk to anybody.
Right.
Talk to a lot of people, but he would find moments just to unplug and, avoid everything.
Yep. Yeah. It was always funny. It was like, it was damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, he was, like, such a psycho, where it would be like, if you talk to him, and even if someone said, like, good game, MJ, or if you talk to him, he'd be like, screw that guy, I'm going to beat him. Yeah. If you disrespected him and didn't talk to him, it was screw you, I'm going to beat him. So it was like, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the one thing that you do go back and you see is, again, I hate my hat on the word competitor, just because, I mean, he was intense. He would do whatever it took to win. I just think it was funny, like, early on, Dave, when he was trying to figure out a way to beat the Detroit Pistons, and he was like, you know what, they beat the crap out of me, so I'm gonna start lifting.
Yeah, that was good.
It was great, but imagine, like, an NBA player a couple years into his NBA career. More than a couple years, like 4 or 5 years into his NBA career, if he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna start working out and lifting.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. That was 30 years ago when he decided to do it.
Yeah,
not that long ago. Yeah. And like, that's the kind of thing that, like, it's not crazy, like, he's giving us the secrets of the world. That's the sort of thing that, like, us as media guys love, because when it's like, how are you trying to get better? That is something that you can write about or talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy when they're like, just trying to get better every day, watch a lot of film. How do you watch a lot of film? Oh, just I watch more of it. How, literally that's is
more.
I was getting beat up.
Yeah.
So I probably should get stronger. What do? I lift weights.
Yeah.
Boom. Great. Awesome. Like that sort of stuff was good.
Yep. Yes.
It did make me miss the Sonics. It did.
Yes. Seattle team, and I don't think there's anybody out there that disagrees with it. And for a long time, Seattle fans have had beef with David Stern, and the former commissioner recently passed away. So I think we hang any, we've kind of obviously retired any sarcastic comments because of that. It's sad. He passed away earlier than he should have. But it is really sad that Seattle does not have a basketball team when you see how much respect the players to this day have for it in that team, and believe they should have a team. Not just the fans. There are legit NBA people out there that think that it should be in Seattle too.
There was one thing, and it has to do with Seattle, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
His dunk from the free throw line in the dunk contest, they never mentioned it, right?
I don't really remember that. There was one other thing that they didn't mention that I was kind of surprised.
I always thought that was pretty iconic, and wasn't it in Seattle during the All-Star game?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I just remembered like I always remember as a kid, you would like pretend to jump from the free throw line, and of course you made it about 4 feet. But that was so iconic. I was like, oh, they're going to talk about that with his younger years, and I don't think they ever mentioned it.
No. They skipped over a couple things. I will say this. With it being a little slower in the sports world, I try to tackle a little bit my own Michael Jordan special, called it After the Last Dance. It's on YouTube right now.
I saw it.
Okay. I actually kind of found some like what I think are like, you think like, okay, it's Idaho. What does anybody in Idaho have to do with Michael Jordan? But we found some storylines, and I think that they all are kind of compelling. But it was Chris Childs, who played at Boise State, talking about, he called MJ an a-hole, and then, when they almost fought, he's like, MJ knew he didn't want any of that, and he's glad because if Chris said if you would have hit him, he probably still would be suspended from the NBA. I was, just like some random things came up along the way, Dave. I knew Cody Pickett was a big Michael Jordan fan, and so I just texted him. I was like, how big of a fan are you? There are a lot of like good shoe collectors, or a few good shoe collectors in the area of Michael Jordan's, but like Cody's got like the originals. Like they have
sweet.
They have so many now that are retros that they come out today and they look like the one from '98.
Right, but they weren't. Yeah.
Cody has like some of like the ones that actually came out, the originals, which is pretty cool. So he kind of explained that to me, and he goes, "Oh, and by the way, the first time I was in Sports Illustrated was because of Michael Jordan." I'm like, "What?" His grandma his aunt, made him a quilt that had Michael Jordan on it, and somehow it gets featured in Sports Illustrated. One of my favorite stories though was Jeff Linder.
Yes, I know that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one that we kind of saw. It was, man, Dave, that was like right in front of our eyes for a long time, and we didn't think anything more of it than just, hey, there's young Jeff with a picture of Michael Jordan. Yeah. And then finally, the story kind of revealed itself that he was at a camp that Michael Jordan was putting on. And Jeff himself sold baseball cards and basketball cards just to help fund his way to the trip. And his mom didn't like flying, so they took the Amtrak all the way from where they lived out to Illinois to go to this camp. But there's 500 kids, and MJ's looking for somebody to shoot free throws, and he calls Jeff Linder, and Jeff's got to make a free throw with his eyes closed for MJ to buy the entire camp Gatorade, and then he makes the free throw. So that's pretty awesome. But
yeah,
it's actually. Dave, so we knew that part, but like there was a kind of a second part to the story that I didn't exactly know, and that's that I knew Jeff was a ball boy for the Denver Nuggets.
Yep.
But the first time that MJ attempted a free throw with his eyes closed in the game was just a couple of years later, and Jeff was the ball boy during that game when MJ shot the free throw with his eyes closed after he said something to Dikembe Mutombo like, "Hey, Mutombo, this one's for you," and he makes the free throw with his eyes closed. So Jeff Linder did it on the big stage before Michael Jordan.
Yep, Michael Jordan was inspired by Jeff Linder.
I'm pretty sure that was episode 11. They haven't aired it yet at the last.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's part of the Jeff Linder documentary.
Yeah.
The Fast Dance. I don't know.
The two-step. I don't know.
I did. You know, what's funny is I've been in his office before, and I did know about the trip to the camp, and I did know about him being a ball boy. But some of the stuff that you had in the story, I had never really like gone into depth with him about. So that was stuff that I didn't know.
That was just something I'm not gonna lie. Just shot him a message and was like, "Hey, I know you're the head coach at Wyoming right now, but you obviously have ties to Boise State and have an awesome story. Would you mind sharing it?" And he's like, "Yeah, zoom me a link." Boom. Next thing you know, he had a really good story. But
yeah, that's awesome.
It's Kobe Carl. You know, he's the ball boy for the Sonics during the NBA Finals when the Sonics and Bulls met, and you know he actually ended up at a camp years later playing with and against Michael Jordan. Jordan was well into his 40s at that time, but just kind of I don't know, just kind of neat stories. There was also another one about a kid in the the mid 80s that was a student at Bora High School, and he was injured in a swimming accident and basically bound to a wheelchair for what I believe was the rest of his life. But somehow Travis Hawks, who runs the Blue and Orange store, right? Blue and Orange.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his father, who once ran a similar store, somehow connected this kid with Danny Ainge, and the kid brought his friends out to Boston, and Danny Ainge held true on a promise. If you ever come to Boston, I got tickets for you. And they got to meet Michael Jordan after the game. The fun thing about that story that I didn't know, and he kind of weave all the stories of The Last Dance together into these local stories. I didn't get a chance to discuss this, but okay, so do you know, Dave, do you remember the part in The Last Dance where Michael Jordan is golfing with opponents during the NBA playoffs? And
yeah.
it was, whoa. Nowadays it's like, why would you ever do that? And nobody thought anything of it at the time because they probably didn't know, but now it's, kind of controversial, it would seem. Well, one of the guys, and I don't even remember if we saw him on this actual part of the documentary, but the fourth member of the group was Danny Ainge. And so that actually kind of sparked enough of a friendship between Michael and Danny Ainge to when these students from Bora High School flew out to Boston to watch the Celtics, they were talking with Danny Ainge down by the locker room after the game, and Danny goes, "Hey, Michael, I want you to meet my friends from Boise, Idaho." And it was, those kids, now that they know the whole story, firmly believe that, those two golfing during the NBA playoffs the year prior,
crazy,
set up a little bit of a friendship to where Danny was like, "Hey, come over here," and then Jordan went over and gave them, 10 minutes of their time, which, as you saw in the documentary, probably doesn't happen too often.
Yeah. And hopefully Jordan's reaction when he said where they're from wasn't like Dennis Rodman's when they're like, "Hey, you ever been to Nashville?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have." And
yeah, even better, he thought it was in Iowa. I don't know.
I had such a crush on Carmen Electra growing up, and I saw that, and I was like, "Thanks, Last Dance."
Yeah, they need probably more Carmen Electra in that, whatever.
Yeah. My favorite thing, one of my favorite things, it was one of the first episodes where it said, Barack Obama, former Chicago resident.
Oh, is that how they titled him?
What's that?
That's how they titled him?
Yeah. I think it was then it was like the second weekend, so like episode 3 or whatever, it said former president, but literally like the first time he was introduced, it said former Chicago resident. That was
kind of love it. That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
But it was good. It was, I think
it was
nitpicky if you want, but it's not going to be at this time. So despite the fact of maybe being able to critique a couple of things every Sunday, I just sat back and watched and really.
I really looked forward to it, and I wasn't a huge Jordan guy. I really wasn't. I have my whole life pretty much been trying to be a hipster and be like, I want to like something that's good, but not what everyone else likes. So growing up, I liked the Sonics.
Yeah.
And I didn't love Joe Montana, but I love John Elway. But I liked it, and it was interesting too because they talked about he produced it and kind of. that might have, I don't want to say sanitized a little bit. Or
No, this is, again, I know that people this day and age want to talk about journalists and some are critical and whatever. This is kind of a good example of why we exist, right?
Right.
Because if, MJ just producing his own documentary, nobody's there to really challenge, hey man, is this the truth?
Yeah.
All of a sudden now they're finding clips that nobody knew existed from, years ago, and they're kind of, showing that maybe he was embellishing in certain areas or in other areas.
Right. And there's like former teammates who are really mad at him, and
yeah, Horace Grant apparently is really upset.
Horace Grant being number one. But like I think about it, even like I love the Fab Five documentary. But Jalen Rose was a producer on that. So, a lot I think that's, it kind of does say a lot about where we are. Like people want to control their brand or their narrative, that a lot of these are.
Isn't there something called Players TV now?
Yeah, probably. Like when you think about like people love Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, Queen was producers on that, so you're not going to get the nitty gritty. Elton John was Rocket Man. He worked on it. It's always like, they're always good, but it's just like
there's probably some
kind
stuff.
of a PR thing.
Yeah,
but they're still enjoyable.
I really like Bohemian Rhapsody, by the way. I thought that was awesome.
It was good. The guy that played Brian May looked like him, which was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Yeah, but I don't know. It does make you wonder, like, who is next, though. I mean, they got and here's the deal.
Brady's doing one, and that one sounds awful.
I know. I'm like whatever with him,
Yeah.
There's some athletes, though. It's not going to be hard because there's just so much footage these days that it'll be easy for somebody to compile that. But it's such a obvious question to ask. If there was one, who would you choose? One athlete that you could do a 10-part series on, who would it be?
Oh.
Do you want me to give you time to think while I tell you mine?
Give me yours.
Dave, I honestly think there's only one answer to this. Tiger Woods.
Yeah, Tiger Woods would be, that one. That one for sure.
And there would be some stuff.
Yeah, you know what? That one's perfect.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Even like
there's a lot. Yeah. Tiger disappeared there for a little while after everything happened.
Yeah.
To fill in some of the gaps of what was going on would be.
But also, when he did, there's a story. What's that?
Rue, keep it down.
Yeah, Rue. That was Rue. But like, I think during that was when he like wanted to be like a Navy SEAL and he got hurt.
Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
Oh, see, this has to happen then.
Yeah.
I don't know why Tiger would ever agree to it.
Right.
But,
probably not.
Yeah.
But that one's great. I saw some of our college football people were kind of saying like maybe not 10 parts, but like the Urban Meyer years at Florida.
Ooh. Yeah.
When you had Tebow and Riley Cooper and Aaron Hernandez, and
you see the juxtaposition between Tim Tebow and Aaron Hernandez.
Right.
It would be crazy.
Yeah. It's like someone said that, I'd be like, that would be a good one that for at worst the 30 for 30, but I have to imagine you have to do more than one part.
What about like a Johnny Manziel?
Manziel would be interesting.
Finding some like what was going on there in Texas A&M off the field.
Yeah.
That would probably be decent.
Manziel for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to get real here for a second, what about Titus Young?
Titus Young. I don't think that would be
a multi-part series, but
yeah. I mean, like
a 30 for 30. That's just one.
Yeah. I don't know if that has like the national appeal.
Probably doesn't.
But we're certainly watching. You're absolutely. We're certain. Kellen Moore.
Right.
Yeah, that would be like, is this thing over yet? We could have done this in like 8 minutes. No offense.
Oh, certainly. I had a great career. Certainly.
It was certainly
Thanks,
good.
Kellen. What else?
Had fun. Yeah, but I think those would be some good ones. By the way, by asking you that question, it did make me think of one other problem I had with The Last Dance. And that was the fact that Dennis Rodman's 48-hour or whatever excursion to Las Vegas was basically summed up in like 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
That probably should have been an entire episode. Maybe actually, in fact, Dave, that's what we need. I'm plugging in my, by the way. I charged this thing overnight, but it's going down. That I think that's what we need. I think that,
and they're like, yeah, you know, he hung out and gambled and went to some of the clubs and had dinner, and Carmen Electra was there, and
that was it.
I was sort of confused. Like, did Michael Jordan come and like personally like knock on the door? Because they make it kind of sound like that he did.
Yeah.
But they probably had a game, so I was a little confused by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. That could have clarified all of our burning questions.
We probably just used a little bit more Rodman and Carmen in Vegas.
14-year-old me appreciates that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Probably about does it. I mean, there's some other odds and ends that came up throughout the week. I know that you said, Dave, you've been busy punching the keyboard lately on some various different types of projects. Even, was it The Simpsons you recently wrote about?
I wrote about The Simpsons. I did 2 blurbs on the top 25 Simpsons sports episodes. I could have done all 25 if they wanted. I did one on the show Brockmire, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. All the episodes except for last season.
Bachmeier, Hank.
Yeah, Bachmeier. Yes, it's all about Hank. A bunch of the episodes are on Hulu there, and I did the one on Mork and Mindy being filmed at Folsom Field in Boulder, which actually is right there. But that one is pretty cool. Pam Dauber, who played Mindy, I talked to her, and she's not easy to get a hold of. Let's put it that way. And so I talked to her, and you know, she was on the goalpost with Robin Williams and stuff for that story, and did that, and I have stuff on Jack Sears soon. And you mentioned the son of the guy I'm doing a story on. Doing a story on D. Pickett.
Oh, cool. Like
I always been fascinated because I knew about him, but I don't know if the new generation of fans knows about him. Yeah. The guy was the starting quarterback and decided not to come back for his senior year to be in the rodeo.
Don't worry.
Do a story on that.
I tell Cody whenever I can that he's not nearly as cool as his dad was.
Yeah, you're right.
Cody Pickett's like the nicest guy ever, but he played at UW, so I refuse to make life easy on him or any conversation we ever have. So that's because he never lost an Apple Cup, and I hate him.
His name in your phone is just Dog.
No, Jerkface.
Jerkface.
Yeah.
But assist to you got me in touch with Cody, and Cody kind of got the ball rolling on the story.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Actually, while we were kind of talking about The Last Dance and going over some stuff, we did get into some rodeo discussion. He was showing me some old pics of his dad.
Yeah.
When he was roping, and some of the advertising that he would do too. Like he was.
He advertised for Stetson hats.
Yeah, he did. He sent me an advertisement. That's pretty. I mean, like as a, roping, like, or being a rodeo guy, like
he was on the cover of the first program when the National Finals Rodeo moved to Vegas. He was the first guy on the cover of the program, which is kind of cool. There's this big shot of him and stuff, and it's kind of fun because I was always interested. Just the guy who was the starting quarterback at Boise State. It's like, I'm going to rodeo now.
Yeah, I don't know how this. Well, just to kind of rope this all together, lasso it up.
Ooh, rope.
Yeah. So sometimes you get so like onto one story, you kind of forget about like the other parts of the story. And Cody was like, yeah, my dad, when he came across some Bulls tickets when they were playing in Portland. He's like, you want to go? I'm like, yeah, let's go to the game. And he's like, so we drove there, watched the game, and drove back in one night. I was like, your dad drove there and back and watched the game in between? He goes, yeah, well, he was in rodeo. And I'm like, God, duh.
Yeah.
But like those guys, I mean, they're not only are they crazy and ride bulls and stuff like that, but they're also like professional drivers that don't need sleep ever and just can drive for days because sometimes that's what they have to do to get to the next rodeo. It's
crazy. I will say, you've interviewed some rodeo people, right? You've done Snake River Stampede stuff.
Yep.
Those are always some of the best people to interview because they don't expect it.
Yep.
They don't need it like a PR person.
Mm-hmm.
There's no loss to them if they say something that's interesting.
In fact, there might be.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so anytime I covered it, like I didn't mind doing it because those guys were always the best people to talk to. So
you're not getting certainly I got on the bull, and then certainly I got off the bull after 8 seconds.
It wasn't as bad as you would ever think, but it wasn't as good.
And in between, it was all right. And the thing about it is the ride, the 8 seconds, you get all the credit when it goes good and all the credit when it goes bad. And really, you should just kind of split credit between you and the bull, and just, that's the way that it should be.
Probably have to go back and watch the film to see where it went well.
I'll let you know in a week after I ride the next bull.
After I've been at 5 more rodeos. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll look forward to that. Gosh, you see MLB, they say that they're going to be back in early July, even though I don't quite believe that yet. The NBA is trying to find a time.
NHL is going to have their playoffs.
NHL, which, man, I'm actually kind of excited for this whole NHL thing, not because it is just sports, but the NHL playoffs are insane regardless of it. So
yes.
To have a 24-team, what do they call it at WrestleMania when everybody just jumps in the ring together, Dave?
Royal Rumble?
Yeah, to have a 24-team Royal Rumble in the NHL playoffs, that's not going to be awesome. Like anybody's going to emerge. I mean, like
what's that?
The 23rd seed could emerge as the winner of this thing.
What was the great tweet about? Oh, so you like excitement? Well, here's playoff hockey, which is we're going to push you out of an airplane on a motorcycle and inject you with cocaine or something like that. That's pretty much what it is.
Pretty much what it is. So that'll be cool. Yeah, I look forward to it. But hopefully all that stuff's right around the corner, and we can finding stories has been fun. There have been fun stories that we have found.
Yeah.
But it also is exhausting at times. So I do look back to getting a few layups every now and then.
Yeah, hey.
And,
it's
reporting on normal stuff.
And because you never know, because like the times where you and I figured this out, like I know when you talk to CT Thomas about being a father and stuff, you were going to talk about that anyway, but sometimes they give you more where you're like, oh, this was great.
Yep.
But now it's not as easy. So.
No, it's not. But Dad's Day's right around the corner, so I'll probably re-cue that story.
Also, happy birthday, belated.
Oh, thanks. Yep, we ran the gauntlet. My birthday on the 21st, wife's on the 22nd, and Wrigley's, the most important of all, as we would agree upon in this household, is the 23rd. So it's a little bit of a gauntlet around here in late-ish May, but it's fun. It's good. We had to give my wife made me my favorite meal is my mom's biscuits and gravy. The first time Camille tackled that, and she put her own twist on it, which actually kind of surprised me and delighted me, because if I want my mom's biscuits and gravy, I'll have that. But she made it her own special way, and it was equally as good.
Awesome. That's awesome.
The sausages are secret, but it was really good.
Sweet. That's great.
Yeah.
I would have made something for you, but
you hate me.
No, it's better if I just cooked it in person, and I can't. So.
That's what it is. I will say this, Dave. I can't wait till we can actually get out of our house and go have a beer somewhere.
Oh,
this is Jay and Dave's Sports Bar, so there's some innuendo there.
That's what keeps me going.
I can't wait. Just to get out, everybody's relaxing, nice weather, crack a cold one, and not have a care in the world for at least 12 ounces.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
Or 96 ounces. Or whatever.
Right, whatever. You want the big one? What kind of question is that? Yes.
Yeah. Well, fun times, Dave. Are you good, buddy?
Yeah, definitely. Just, I've been cracking away at The Athletic. There's content. So follow along and hope you all check it out.
I'll say the same thing about KTV. Will and I have kept plugging away. It actually offends me when people say there's no sports going on. What are you covering?
I know.
I feel is appealing.
Yep.
And it just takes a little more effort. And but it's good. So, boom. Well, until next week, Davo.
Until next week, my friend.
Until next week. That'll do it for us today on Jay and Dave's Sports Bar, serving Gatto Sports.